priests left in the Restoration Branch movement, but the ones that we do have are very active. As you may know, under the general church, the priesthood, the Melchizedek priesthood, is actually two divisions, elder and high priest. And within the high priest rank, there are various offices. So we have the bishops, patriarchs, prophets, and so forth, and apostles. For a while, the high priests were meeting fairly regularly. We kind of dropped off of that, but we've restarted it. Brian asked us to get together in preparation for this conference, which we've met twice and have set a date for us to meet after the conference. So hopefully we'll continue those meetings. And our main thrust of ministry right now is just trying to be out among the saints in the restoration branches.
Thank you. We do need that ministry. The next one would be the media team report. You do not have this. We will have this for you tomorrow. But Brother Zach or Kevin, would you like to come and make an update, share?
Zach had to leave for work, so I'm going to kind of go through this a little bit. So over the last year or last several months, we've kind of started a new media team after last conference, and basically kind of what our goals are with the media team is to work on reinvigorating some of the ministry that the conference can provide, not only here in the center place, but also reaching all of our members around the world. And so kind of a few primary goals that we have, I'll just read them off here. First, to provide relevant, actionable ministry for daily life as a Christian. Something that we really feel is that we often in the church kind of maybe miss some of those daily, what is life as a Christian like, and what do we need to do for that? And we wanted to be able to provide that, to use modern techniques to spread the gospel to saints on a global scale, and to really show that the church is truly alive, and there's reason to rejoice in the work of the kingdom. A lot of times, kind of like we've talked about a little bit over the past couple days, is we don't realize all of the wonderful things that are happening around the world in the gospel work. So that was something else we wanted to kind of show through our media efforts. So we've brought the CRE on Facebook and Instagram, as well as YouTube, and we just released a new website last week. With those, we're releasing daily devotionals, information about upcoming events, resources, classes, videos, things like that. And I wanted to share some statistics with you guys, because I think this, even though numbers really are not the important thing here, these stats show really the impact that we can have through these media efforts. In the first few months of being on Facebook, the CRE Facebook reached almost 3,000 individuals with an average reach of over 360 views per post. So every time we post on Facebook, that's almost 400 people that are receiving that content, watching those devotionals, things like that. And then the YouTube channel has reached people just over 25,000 times. Now, just to clarify what that means, that is a time that someone sees something from the CRE YouTube. So it doesn't mean we have 25,000 people who have watched our videos. It just means that's the number of times we've made contact with someone, whether they actually partook of the content or not. And the most viewed video so far is our Stone Church service, which has approximately 980 views. So we're really excited about the things that are going on. We kind of had a little bit of a pilot period in the fall, and we're looking forward to continuing those efforts, continually moving forward from this spring. So that's what we have.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Zach and Kevin, the whole team. Really a lot of work been done to that. You get a chance, go. Got the same web address, but go check out the new website. Yeah, it does. It looks very nice, very fresh. Let's go next to our quorum reports. We're going to ask you to move kind of quickly here, if you don't mind. We have... Let's start with the Aaronic. Do you guys have a report to share? Next one up, we'll go to, we've got two quorums online, and so Kevin, if you could have those lined up too for the two quorums online.
So just give some of the highlights over the last couple of days. Yesterday we really just kind of spent the time as an open discussion on what quorums are and what the purpose of that. We were looking in various sections of the Doctrine and Covenants. And today we got a little bit more organized as far as taking a look at some of the resolutions where we didn't come to a exact consensus on our view or recommendation for the first resolution. We hope to open that up for tomorrow. We wanted to take some time to pray over that, and obviously we haven't discussed the other resolutions, so that's kind of where we're at this point.
Thank you very much. Okay, we just have one quorum online, one elder's quorum, so let's go ahead and receive that report.
Our online quorum, we've spent 2 days going through the resolutions. We spent a bulk of the time on resolution number 3. We're going to propose some recommended changes to that, and that information will be available to the conference as soon as Kevin's able to get it out there. But we spent a bulk of the time today discussing that. There were differing opinions. There was a very amenable discussion. I felt we had a good spirit there during our discussion. We are also going to be advancing a new resolution to the floor as well, pursuant to our domestic outreach council. So we've been busy, and we've had some great discussion, and we will continue to refine and look at those resolutions together.
Brother Jay?
Yes.
Has your quorum already passed resolutions?
We have passed all the resolutions, resolution 3 with changes. All the other resolutions we have looked at and have agreed with the way they've been presented. So those we have passed as a quorum. We did draft a new resolution today.
Vim, question for you. Should they present those now, or do we wait a little bit whenever it comes to the floor?
If it's a new one, they ought to share it now and present it to the secretary so it can be pulled up.
Thank you.
If it's just simply an amendment, when the main one comes to the floor, then
Thank you.
they can share what they're amending. But yeah.
Okay, so do you have the new one there, Jay?
I do.
Could you at
Just a
least
minute
read
here.
that for us? And we'll send it to Jay, or to Jason?
Okay. Kevin should already have a copy of it. Just a minute, I'm trying to find it here.
There it is, we've got it up here. Do you have a microphone, Jason? You want to read? Oh. Okay. Let's go ahead. We're going to have Jason read that into the report.
Okay.
Resolution of expansion of Domestic Missionary and Outreach Council, whereas the CRE has slotted 7-member seats in each council, and whereas the Domestic Missionary and Outreach Council has divided the continental U.S. and Canada into 9 manageable regions, be it resolved that the conference approve the DMOC member seats to be expanded to 9 seats.
Okay, thank you. We'll deal with that then whenever we get to that. So, okay, that's the only quorum online. Let's go to our local quorum 1.
Quorum 1 has discussed and passed, as it is, resolution number 1, resolution number 5, resolution 4, with some amendments to the first sentence, basing that on, we'll present that when we get there, about not just international but also domestic. resolution number 2, and we're discussing resolution number 3 currently. And there is an amendment to R3 that's been passed. That's to cut the last part of the last paragraph on appeals, to basically leave that appeal just with the coordinating council. And that's where we are so far, sir.
Okay. Quorum number 2. Just for the record, if you'd introduce yourself too.
Yep. I'm Robert Gillum, presiding over quorum number 2. We met yesterday and today. We spent much time in prayer and getting to know each other and enjoying that time together spiritually. As far as resolutions, we passed proposed resolution 1 with amended changes, resolution 2 with amended changes. We have not discussed resolution 3 at this time. Resolution 4, we have abstained any discussion on that until it becomes present to the floor. Proposed resolution 5, we've approved with a minor change at the end of the sentence, on the last sentence.
Super. Thank you. Quorum 3.
Dean Cedarstrom, Secretary for Quorum 3. Met this morning, and resolution number 1 was moved as written. Resolution number 2 was again moved and accepted as written. Number 4, there was some question as to who is the International Evangelism Committee. That should be council there, and correction to that in the vote, but it was sent to the floor with discussion. So, then considerable discussion on resolution, resolution number 5, budget for the 6th year, was approved. And resolution number 3 generated a number of discussion. We would like, the council or quorum would like to propose a substitute motion to number 3. I have it written here. If you want me to go over it better.
Let's see where things go here for right now. Let's just
Right.
go ahead and get it to
It's considerably long, and we can get I can give it to Jason, and I think Danny has the electronic copy. We can make copies.
Okay.
Oh, you have it. Oh, okay.
Okay, good. Oh, you got a copy? Okay. We'll get an electronic copy then.
Oh.
Brother Chairman,
Yep.
just make a suggestion that all the quorums, the amendments and everything, if they could submit an electronic copy, then when it gets pulled up, it's already ready to go.
That's a great point. So if you can get that to Jason electronically or to Kevin so that we can do that.
Okay. And then also, we would like to request that number 3 be moved up on the agenda for discussion by the body.
Oh, thank you.
So,
Okay. That's all of our quorums. Yes.
Dane, did we have the one on Kirtland? Did you have the one on Kirtland in there?
Oh, a new one on Curtin? Okay. Keep him straight
yes,
now.
yeah, we would like to made a motion to request the coordinating council to plan another retreat this fall for Kirtland. So,
Okay, that's a new resolution, so we'll put that on the agenda too. Thank you. Okay, that's all of our quorums, and we're going to go next and introduce the financial reports. Brother Ray. Brother Jay has a question online first. Go ahead. Thank you, Kevin.
So send electronic copies to Jason to his personal email account?
Yes, please, that'll be fine, and send it to Kevin also, if you would, please.
Kevin's already got it.
Okay?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for keeping me watch that. Want to introduce, just so we stay on schedule here, and the motion about moving number 3 up, we'll deal with here real quickly. But let's go ahead, if it's okay. We're not going to discuss, we're only going to introduce the financial report. Next, Brother Ray Lane is, there you go, brother. Okay. You would go to your next section 2.
I'm going to go into page 4. Is that what you want to go into as
Yes.
far as the thing? Okay.
Actually, Brother Ray, while we're right here, we do have our budget for the week, and we haven't even discussed that yet. Would like to go ahead, if you would, please, present that and have the conference, if you'd make that as a motion, so we could go ahead and get this approved.
Yeah, that's on page 2 at the top, where it's a statement of financial position. Conference thing, I'd like to move the proposed budget.
Is there a second for this is just for this week?
Yes.
Brother Vim seconds it. Any discussion on the budget for this week? Okay. Seeing none, want to ask a vote of approval for the conference budget for this week. Please show your hands. I can't see anybody online, Kevin. Are we good? Okay, without objection, then we'll declare that approved. Go ahead, Brother Ray.
On page 4, you'll see the income expenses for the recorded for 10 months from May 1st to February 28th. I'd like to do is also at that point, in some of the places there's been a couple changes because we're into March, and there has been some income into that and also some expenses. And basically, where it is in your domestic outreach. It shows under 6609 for income, it's 6709, so we got $100 in as a contribution there. On publication council, no, wait a minute. Yes, publication council. It shows $12,511 on your report there. It's actually, right now it's $12,850.
Will you have an updated report, Ray? That,
Right here.
okay.
And I gave you one.
Right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll give
So-
him this, I'll give him this when we're done.
So
And also, on the expense side, there's 3 areas that have an expense. One is the rent. It shows 10,937. It's 1212 now because I paid March's rent, and Friday I'll be paying April's rent, so that's going to go up again. On the equipment and repairs and replacement, got 11,454. It's 16,477. And that was the last portion of the thing for the systems that we were updating for our possibilities of Zoom. So I don't think, I'm not sure, Kevin would have to tell me, I think that's the last of what he spent. I think that was it for the final.
Okay.
And on the phone and internet, it was 4457, is now 4920. That's our phone bill and that came in, and
If it's
I think
okay
that
with,
post came in also.
if it's okay with everybody, what we're saying is there's some modifications to what has been submitted to you. I know ARM has some updates that they're going to submit to, but for where we're at right now, we'd like for you to just receive the financial report if that's okay. And then whenever we get to that in our agenda, we will be able to get into the more details. Is that okay with everyone? Okay. So the report is on page 2 through the end of section 2. And so we'll have these updated sheets for you to be able to look at and follow along a little bit better, as well as ARMS information too.
There's one thing, if I could, I'd like to
Please.
expound a little bit on the publication council.
Okay?
The expenses in that really have been in this last issue was for mailing. The rates went up. Just for example, the printing went up just a little bit from last year to this year. They're consistent every publication they do. A box to Kenya was $115.70 before, went up to $132.05 for one box. For the Philippines, one box is $110.40, it went up to $121.30. Canada is an envelope, it was $3.78, went up to $3.93. Australia was $7.31, it went up to $7.60, and it's the same as United Kingdom. Most of the expenses for mailing for this year, and actually a couple publications last year, were all foreign mailing. And the reason I'm saying that is because before we went to what we have now, where people could subscribe and get it online and that, or not accept it, we were mailing out a lot more domestic, and I always kept in the account around $1,500. And it was in there, and when we sent the one out before, that was reduced by quite a bit. So actually, for our domestic mailing, for the last 5 mailings, it hasn't cost anything in that essence, because it was on the account. This last mailing, I had to put another $150 in. It went from $140 to $260 for domestic. Just so you're aware of what that is, and so.
Thank you. And the Publication Council or any of the quorums might want to consider upping that suggested donation from $12 to $15 maybe. Brother Vim?
Brother Chairman, I would just request that we put the changes of income and expenses for March in the daily tidings, just those line items.
Okay.
And that, I think, will get us up to date.
Good. Where's Janet? Janet's not in here, but let's make sure those changes that Ray just submitted, let's get them in the daily tidings too. Okay, thank you. I'll recognize quorum number 3 here if you wanted to propose a change in the agenda. If not, we can keep on rolling to resolution number 1.
I just make a motion to that, or?
Yep.
Okay, I'd like to move at changing the agenda to advance resolution number 3
Okay.
ahead of the schedule.
Okay. So there's a motion to amend the agenda, bringing number 3 to the floor first. Is there a second to the motion? There's a second. Any discussion? Brother Vim?
Yeah, I would speak against the motion since our quorum has not had an opportunity to consider it at all, and would ask that we delay it till then.
Okay. Is there other discussion? Brother Doug?
I guess I also would speak against it just in terms of timing. I think it's going to be a little bit of discussion on that. We're down to half an hour right now. I think if we do some of the other ones, we can probably get 2 or 3, 4 of these knocked out in that half hour and still have time tomorrow to do the other discussion.
Okay. John?
I just have a point of order. As far as a motion to change the order, is that a majority or is that a more than majority required? I didn't bring my cheat sheet with me. So.
Well, I'm going to probably be a lot more less Robert's rules on some stuff like that. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not really excited about moving the question and some of the parliamentary procedures, and I believe there are provisions that we have said in previous conferences that if, as a presider, they don't feel like we're at a point we're ready to vote or do different things, then I'm going to take that prerogative. And so at this point, I would hate to see us have 49-51 on a decision like this. But go ahead, Danny. I think you want to go next.
I just wanted to suggest we move that up, and it's for selfish reasons, because I am not going to be able to be here for much of tomorrow, and I do feel the necessity to speak to this. Not vote on it today. I understand not all the quorums have had opportunity to look it over, but at least get it out there where we can address that for a little bit. That would be my intent.
Okay. Another option can always be that we start it and then we can table it after Danny shares what he needs to do too. So a lot of options for you. So we've had some comments here, especially the quorums haven't had proper time to be able to really discuss it. So any other discussion?
I would support the allowing Brother Danny to introduce the motion, and have him share, but table the consideration till tomorrow.
Okay. Do we need does that need to be a motion, or can we just? There we go. Let's just do that. Thank you. Without objection, then, I'd like Danny to go ahead and share those things that he needs to, and then we'll go back to the agenda. Thank you, Danny. Thanks, Vim.
I appreciate what the coordinating council have worked on this number 3. I think a lot of good things have come from it. The intent that I see in that would be to open the conference up more beyond participants in the independent restoration branches. They've addressed the what is termed the bridge branch groups, and now that for information for all, the bridge branches was term that has been coined by the Community of Christ of those groups who remain fundamental to the original tenets of the reorganization of the gospel. And in the center place, we have at least four, and probably more, and there are those groups outlying, I'm certain, that also would fall into that category. Step in the right direction. I would just offer, again, that for the substitute is just simply worded the way the coordinating council have worded it, with some modifications. We handed out yesterday the proposed substitute motion, and you'll find, I hope you all have that, you'll find that what is in the paler print, it would be the changes that I would suggest on this. And what it does is it further opens up the conference to all of those who are heirs of the reorganizations that have, since 1984 primarily, that have left the institutional church and formed these restoration branches, and subsequently, since then, have they formed other groups. And with that, I'm calling for the CRE credentialing to go back to the reflection of what the original intent was. We've had issues over the years because of the separation of these other organizations, such as the Remnants and the Restoration LDS, the JCRB, the Everlasting Church in the Latter Days, and others. And as a result, that fragmentation certainly has caused a lot of confusion, has caused a lot of diminishing of our strength, if you will, within the greater restoration. The branches or the body of the CRE as it's constituted is an advisory body. It's not a legislative body. We can deliberate and we can offer counsel and suggestions, obviously, to the individual groups. So we're not talking about legislation, but we're talking about the opportunity to confer. And as a background, I just wanted to share with you, and as a historian for the CRE, I had an experience here in this very sanctuary 28 years ago where I saw the time when we would, under Jesus, would be called to submit, and He is the one that's going to determine how this is going to be. We have, over the years, worked and struggled with the way the structure is supposed to be in the church. And as a result, that has dominated too much of our time here in this deliberative group. Joseph Smith III, I want to go back a little bit to him, particularly into the early reorganization, because there are precedents that I think may be helpful for us moving forward. Joseph III and Joseph Luff were two individuals who, both giants in the gospel, but they butted heads throughout the years. They just didn't see the same in so many ways. And Joseph III said to Joseph Luff early on, never drive your stakes so deeply that you can't pull them up. And we've got to be careful that we don't drive our stakes so deeply that we can't pull them up. Joseph Luff also made a statement that is written in a book by Elbert A. Smith of Considering Our Whereabouts. And he says in there that heaven remains silent when there are two sides of a controverted issue. And I think that it has remained silent to a great degree to all of us, and we have suffered anemia and weakness as a result. Wonderful ministry going on overseas, encouraging. Domestic ministry suffers. And we certainly need to be taking a look at that. I think as we go back in history, we'll find that the church organized on April the 6th, 1830, but the gospel, the fullness of the gospel was restored to earth 1828, 1829. What was restored was priesthood authority and fulfillment of the Great Commission and the everlasting covenant, which constitutes the fullness of the gospel. It was done prior to the church organization. The church is the vehicle by which we accomplish the work that Jesus has called us to do. That work is the Great Commission, to fulfill His Great Commission, to go into all the nations, baptizing, you know the words. Lo, I'm with you always, even to the end of the world. And then the everlasting covenant, which is the call to Zion, which is very, very central to, in fact, that's the reason why we're here. And Jesus has called us into a great gathering. It's a gathering. And so the restoration has come about because He's calling His people to come together. And obviously we're talking, and we have discussed, about a physical gathering, but it's the spiritual gathering that I think that He's calling us to now. And so, with that said, you will see on your papers the reasons or the changes. I'll say that the first one in page 1, just very briefly, is the third paragraph down, and whereas the Conference of Restoration Elders is an advisory and support organization to bring solidarity to a growing number of restoration branches and Latter-day Saints in general during this period of disruption and fragmentation. That's taken from the inside cover of our each tidings issue. I'm just taking that word for word. And then a couple of, about an inch down, a couple more sentences later, I've added an addition that I think encapsulates what we're trying to do here. And be it further resolved, the Conference of Restoration Elders, as possible, reflect inclusive RLDS precedents when considering authorized priesthood from all restoration groups who have remained faithful to the gospel of Jesus Christ. I did include some background information, historical and scriptural background information to back that up. You can look that over. You'll find at the bottom of page 1, number 1, I struck that entire paragraph. Number 2 says, on a case-by-case basis, excuse me, the Elders Conference credentials men holding the office of priest, deacon, teacher, elder, and persons who hold membership from groups who have remained faithful to the gospel of Jesus Christ and original tenets of his church. Those holding higher office from organizations after 1984, 70 bishop, high priest, evangelist, apostle, prophet, are considered elders, as an elder is synonymous with Melchizedek. You'll find that in the Doctrine and Covenants throughout. You'll also find that in historical sightings. The word elder is a title and it is also an office. And what's referred to, and Brother Joseph III referred to this as the title, it is synonymous with Melchizedek. We're not going to accept somebody to seat them here at the conference that holds an office higher, unless it would be the individuals who held that office in the original church back prior to 1984 thereabouts. And it is on a case-by-case basis, number 3, for reasons of conscience or physical location, while not joined with a branch, have remained faithful to the doctrines of Jesus Christ. And I have cited references there. We've eliminated paragraph 5. It's not printed here. And the rest of it reads the same. It reads just as the Coordinating Council has placed that. Again, I think it's important to understand that the church was organized April 6th. The gospel, everlasting covenant, was restored prior to that. We, brothers, I believe, have conflated what is the church and what is the gospel, which the only thing that Jesus has told us to do, there's 2 things. It's to spread the everlasting gospel, the everlasting covenant, and again, the Great Commission. That's what we should be about. As we gather here, our focus should be on how do we facilitate best to do that. How do we do that in a very practical sense? It needs to be broadened so that all in the restoration that are heirs of the reorganization since 1984 have opportunity as individuals to come and deliberate. Does not have anything to do with accepting the bodies, a corporate body of any of these other groups. And I'll be glad to share more information, but that's the background that we have. And I think that it would really strengthen us if we would take a step such as this, because we have a lot of discouragement. We have a lot of our young people, primarily identify our young people, our young families, who's now 2 generations have come of age since 1984. And we've lost so many. We're losing them. And the reason is because they cite the fact that we fuss and we fight, and we're hypocrites when it comes to things like this. And so I call on us through this, through the credentialing, that we get back to what Jesus has originally asked us to do, and that would be to facilitate the task that's before us. He's going to take care of the church, and it's not us to do that.
Danny, before you leave, and I want to clarify, you don't know where I stand on this situation, but I had a question that was posed to me, and since you're here, and since you're referring to church history in great detail, I want to read a small item from church history, volume 8, page 68, was in regards to the clarification to the harmony agreement that was rescinded, and it says, another effect was to make it clear to some who continued to be unhappy about the 1925 action that to transfer their membership to the Church of Christ meant loss of their membership in the reorganization. For ministers, it meant the loss of their ministerial standing in the reorganization.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you could, and then again, I'm not directing, I want, in case this question is here in this body too, this here was presented to me, I would like to understand, because this also from church history, if they joined other organizations that had already ordained apostles at this point with the Church of Christ, they lost their ministerial standing in the reorganization.
That was subsequent, yes. For everyone's information, you'll find that in the third volume of church, or excuse me.
Volume 8.
Volume 8 of church history. In 1918, there was an agreement between the Church of Christ Temple Lot and the reorganization to come together on 24 points. You'll find that in church history. Go read it. And amongst those points, of course, one central point was paragraph 7, which says that we recognize the authentic divine authority of priesthood in all of these groups, can exist in all these groups. And so we're on record. That went to the General Conference of the reorganization. It passed unanimously through all of the quorums. It passed in the General Assembly, but by one dissenting vote out of all the delegates. In the Hedrickite Church, the Temple Lot brothers and sisters, it passed unanimously. That was in effect for 7 years until 1925, in which let me back up. In 1920, there was a resolution that came to the General Conference to rescind, because there were some that, since that interconference period, were unhappy with that, but it was ruled out of order by the First Presidency, so it was not considered. 1925 happened, the Supreme Directional Control issue became an issue, and the Church of Christ Temple Lot made the move to rescind that. And then the reorganization also responded, and so they rescinded it too. Tragedy, because what we possibly could have done if that had have continued on that track, because it was a good track, wasn't anything in the 24 points of the Agreement of Working Harmony that they were disagreeing about. It was the situation of what happened with Supreme Directional Control.
Danny, just real quick, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I'm meaning specifically the statement that if they, after that was rescinded, that if they joined these other groups, they lost their ministerial standing. Brother Bim?
Point of privilege. I think we're moving beyond the point of privilege that we extended to yeah, we're actually moving into the debate.
Okay.
And so I
That's
think,
fine.
that can be shared tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I appreciate it, and again, I don't know that I'm going to be here tomorrow. It's the reason why I've taken a little more liberty, Vim, yeah. Anyway, yes, that was an issue within the church, but I don't think that it involves the CRE in any way. I think that we're talking about individuals who have adhered to the original doctrines of the church, and how we can work together to bring ministry to the greater body and fulfill what Jesus has asked us to do. And that basically is what it's
Okay.
all about, brother.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I hope you're able to still stay and we can keep going on. We're going to pull up resolution number 1. Yep.
Did we rescind the motion that was on the floor to move number 3 up?
Yes, we're going to deal with it now. We wanted to give Danny the opportunity. We're going to go back in order. Is that my understanding? Oh, okay. Is that what because Vim, you're the one that suggested tabling it until it's back, but, okay, so we're back on the original order. We're going to go to resolution number 1. It's on page 6. This is the substitute motion to the motion that is currently in place. So it looks like quorum number 2 has some amendments, but for right now, let someone move resolution number 1. Brother Doug Smith moves it. Is there a second? Sean Teljohn seconds the motion. The motion's on the floor right now, so if quorum number 2 has some amendments, or any other quorum has any changes they'd like to propose, right now, resolution number 1's on the floor.
Jason, can you also confirm that Steve Kropp got you those digitally over the last few minutes? And I can also read them from here on our notes.
Let's go ahead and read what you got. And
Okay.
Jason, you got?
So what we've proposed into our amendment here, some minor verbiage changes. In the first paragraph where it says, "Be it resolved that the elders of this conference discuss with their branches, neighboring branches, groups, and individual members as much as possible." So we would insert the word members following individuals. At the, yes.
Okay, next.
Second paragraph, following that last sentence, "Those participating in the forum would be members from independent restoration branches or unaffiliated members."
Okay.
A report of forum discussions will be made available to all branches and individual members.
Individual
Yeah.
members.
A report of forum discussions will be made available, not sent to all branches and individual members. Yes. And then the last sentence, "All topics will be published, however, discussion will be prioritized based on," and we flipped the last couple pieces so that it would read, "based on direction from the Holy Spirit and frequency of subject matter."
Okay.
Those are our proposed changes.
You want to handle those as one amendment? Or
We
you
would
wanna
like, we would like to present it as one amendment.
Okay. Is there a second to that amendment? Benji seconds it. Okay, discussion? You want to mention anything about, you want to walk us through this, or?
Really, we felt that that would make it a little more broad in the sense that we get it to not just branch members only that have a branch that they're specifically a part of, but if there are those that are unaffiliated, we wanted to make sure that we included them as well. And then our thoughts on that last paragraph would be to emphasize the direction from the Holy Spirit first, but also inclusive of the frequency of the subject matter presented.
Okay. This matters before you now, this amendment. Your discussion be limited to these amendments, these 4 items there.
I just promised, this is Tom Mitchell, just the quorum 1. In our discussion, we passed the resolution as it was, but there was discussion of would it just be the restoration branches or other members? And so I just want to put that out. That came up in ours as well.
Thank you. Any discussion on these amendments? Seeing none. Anything online? Can't see the online now. The screens before you is what the changes are. Alan, I want to make sure you're clear on this since you can't see. It said neighboring branches, groups, and individuals. They're saying individual members. The next paragraph, it adds branches or affiliated members. The next paragraph, it says instead of being sent out, we're making it available to branches and individual members, and then flipping at the end. You understand what we're saying? Yes. Thank you. Okay, those in favor of the amendment, please show your hands. Any opposed? We got a count online, Kevin? I see. It's coming in. I see it. All right. It passes. Thank you for your patience. Now, the motion as amended is before you right now. Brother Howard?
Howard Parker, Atherton. We had a lot of discussion with this, but most of our discussion ended up on what is independent restoration branches. And we didn't know whether there was any kind of insight the coordinating council had, or if it could be up for discussion and whether it needed an amendment.
Someone from the coordinating council like to address that? Steve?
Steve Crop from the Wellington Restoration Branch. Howard, can you help me understand just in general what an independent restoration branch is?
Yeah, the discussion was what is the intent of independent restoration branches and how wide of a scope is that, or how narrow is it, you know, considering all the other people and all that. That was the discussion. If someone from our quorum.
So specifically in the second paragraph, it says those participating in the forum would be members from independent restoration branches. So I'm assuming the question from the quorum is, can JCRB or other organizations or other people participate in this forum, or what the thought was?
Sean, you look like you've got something you want to say.
Could I? Yeah, Sean, tell John Lima. In the discussions in the quorum, what came up was that the original, the original meaning of independent restoration branches back in the day was that they were independent of the institutional church. Since that time, it's kind of had a different connotation. So that's where the discussion was, is what is really the intent behind that word independent.
Yep. I think that brings a little more clarification, because I think we've all, since 1984, have functioned under the understanding that an independent restoration branch was one that was independent from the RLDS church. And I think that was just a general, I think if you went around to all the restoration branches, that would be the general understanding of what that is. Because of the splitting of the independent restoration branches and even more factions, I guess, being developed from that, I think it would be worth another review of what that means to be an independent restoration branch. I think for the discussions within the coordinating council, I can tell you that we still look at it as those who have not ventured into areas where they would ordain beyond the office of elder, that they would still be considered an independent restoration branch. That if you go beyond that office or organization, like I think what you would consider the JCRB or the Remnant Church have done, then they no longer would be considered in that qualification of an independent restoration branch, but they have started another organization.
Thank you.
Does that help, Howard?
Okay. John, Benji, were you wanting to come?
John Tandy from Waldo. I agree with the original definition of what independent meant, but also agree that it has been extended. And I'll just point to the Melchizedek guidelines on page 1-6, which basically defines a restoration branch, according to this elders conference, includes not ordaining men to the offices higher than elder, priest, teacher, and deacon. So the elders conference, unless that's modified, has defined essentially what independent restoration branch is under that definition.
Okay. Benji?
Benji Pedersen. In considering what an independent branch is, it looks like our credentialing guidelines may be revised here with number 3. It might be prudent for us to take up this discussion after we consider resolution number 3. If we pass something with this resolution, then we do revise our credentialing guidelines. We may need to take this back up to revise the language for what our members forum or members conference might look like.
Okay.
I'm going to just say that without a motion.
John Nadeau online, if you'd like to share on this. John from Rwanda.
I don't think you need to pause for voting.
Go ahead, brother. I think we lost connection. Can you send in a chat? We'll be happy to read what you're wanting to share. We'll come back if we find something else. Tom?
Mental outreach, and I understand what Benji's saying, but I don't think that's true from our reading. If we do visit proposed substitution for 3, that affects priesthood certification, would not have really anything to do with how we would label independent branches.
Okay. Brother Vim?
Yeah, I'd make a motion to table consideration of this till after we approve or take matters of Resolution 3.
There's a motion, and it's been seconded here by, we'd like to table the motion till after we're able to deal with the other matter. There, it is seconded. All those in favor of tabling, please show your hands. Any? Hey, we're getting to raise hands up. We're going to, that's proposing to table this, so you please raise your hands if you're. Okay. Brother Mark, good to see you on. I'm going to count your raising the hand there as a raise, so no, just joking. Okay. Any opposed? We have a very vast majority, so I think we'll proceed with tabling this motion now. We have lunch that is ready for us. We've got a lot to get done tomorrow. And Saturday, our time is going to be shorter. So I just want to throw this out there. John?
I just don't want to interrupt your thought.
I just want to throw this out. We're keeping the schedule as is unless somebody changes something, so.
I guess a point of privilege. Did you want me to say something?
Thank you
about
very
this?
much. I forgot to do that.
And then I'd be
So-
glad to say the prayer for the meal too, if you like.
And you will say the prayer for the blessing on the food too.
Okay, and I won't take long. Brian had asked me in terms of the reports to comment on the availability now of the inspired version in Spanish. The RLDS Church never ever translated the inspired version into Spanish. We had the Doctrine and Covenants and Book of Mormon, but they never did the IV. We now have, and I'll for the camera, there we go. The entire Bible, Genesis to Revelation, retranslated completely, not just the Joseph Smith differences, but completely retranslated from the King James into Spanish. My parents were the ones that basically headed that effort up, but there were quite a number of others, Castillos in Mexico and the Sperry family, many others that assisted with that work. And so the books are now available, and they have also, in the last year, as it's been published, gotten many copies basically for free down to the saints that are in Latin America in particular, to try to get that into their hands. And so as a matter of outreach, not only domestic but international outreach, and I wanted to let anybody know that is interested that I do have some boxes of these back in the gym. And there's a conference special going on this week, so if you want to get one. If you'd like to learn Spanish, take your Bible and take this along and read them side by side. I'd also comment that we did have a request, and I think it's being worked on, that someone would like to take the Spanish Bible and essentially help then kind of stimulate a translation into Portuguese as well. And I don't know where that effort's at, but it's, because Spanish and Portuguese are similar. So hopefully if that effort continues, that will be also available one day. So I think that's probably, I do have a question. I didn't see any reports about lamb, but does anyone know, and you don't have to answer it now, but Juan Reyes, I've not seen him for years. We've been trying to get hold of him because we want to get books to him and his church members down there. So if somebody knows.
I've got his email address. The problem has been him getting a visa to come back into the country. So
yeah.
I'll get you his contact so that we can do that.
Yeah, all right. And
brothers, I want to share with you something. I just think this is huge. And as I was sharing with my son, who's inactive in the church, he was helping me move these books. And I said, you realize that in last year, this small army has translated the inspired version into Spanish, the Book of Mormon into Swahili and Kinyarwanda. Huge. God is certainly doing a wonderful work.
And I appreciate the Elders Conference loaning us some space, and I apologize publicly for taking up so much space for so long. We are going to get those books out of the office.
That's no problem. Would you please offer a prayer?
All right, thank you. Heavenly Father, we do thank you for your blessings this day and for all of your grace that we depend on so much. And we pray your continued blessings on this conference, and we thank you for the food that's been prepared and ask that you would bless it and our fellowship the remainder of this day, that you and thy Son, Jesus Christ, would be glorified in what we do, and we pray it in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. There is a contribution basket down in front of the line, and so if you're able to help with the cost of lunch, please do so, but most importantly, stay in fellowship with each other. God bless you all. We'll meet back here at 1:30.